Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Back of the Beis. Coming this week with part 2 of our Revelation and the Written Torah series. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode with part 1. You can check that out on our YouTube channel or on the blog itself. In the second half of our conversation on Revelation, we discussed the difference between Moshe and all other prophets. We discussed the concept of being on high spiritual levels. We discussed some of the concepts of spirituality, and we ended off with a very powerful discussion of where is God in this world. So I hope you enjoy it. There's a lot in this episode that's really thought-provoking. This was actually the first episode that we ever recorded, so we're really, Yehuda and I were really figuring things out as we were going, but really, really enjoying ourselves in terms of the conversation. Don't forget, you can contact us at backofthebeis@gmail.com with any questions or comments. You can check me out on Twitter at Kumsitzguy. You can check out both Yehuda and I on Facebook. And stay tuned to our blog and the YouTube channel for all updates and future episodes. So without further ado, here we go, part 2 of Revelation and the Written Torah.
But the funny thing is that what we've done now is just strengthen the question. Because if what we're saying is that ultimately the Torah can be discovered by one man just thinking and really hard and being aware of everything around him.
And paying attention. And
then what do you need a revelation for?
Right, so that's a question I've thought about myself.
So the simple answer
to me, if you don't mind me interjecting, is sustainability through time.
What do you mean?
Sustainability through times means like, okay, well, there's going to be a period where there's going to be a lot of pogroms. There's going to be a Holocaust. There's going to be multiple Holocausts that other people don't talk about in different ways. The Spanish Inquisition. There's going to be the Philistines coming in, wiping out the
destruction of Beis Hamikdash.
Right. There's going to be
total breakdown of Jewish culture.
So to sustain this understanding through time, you're going to need all the information out there and accessible, so to speak.
Why can't you just, according to what you're saying, why can't you just do what the Christians have done, which is essentially you make a Torah, you give it to millions of people. Let's assume that's what Moshe did, right? And as long as you have people and you have the book, so all you need to generate is faith. You don't have to regenerate the Torah. Why does the revelation regenerate the faith? Saying like, that doesn't need to be what regenerates the faith. You could just have
the Torah doesn't regenerate the faith. It perpetuates truth.
No, but specifically the revelation of God. Why couldn't Moshe just make a huge display and say, guys, we finally figured everything out. We've been working on this for 2,000 years. We got it.
We've done figured it out, boys.
Yes. Pop the champagne. We got all 613. Well, why not 614? We like the number. They talked like old Jews from the Lower East Side then too, right? Like,
Moshe.
It was okay,
we like the number.
We got 613, So, why does Moshe do that? Why couldn't that be what does the revelation change about that?
Right. I mean that's a good question. I thought about it in slightly different terms, but I think it's the same question, which is like, why did Hashem? If the purpose was to get to the Torah, right, or get to the giving of the Bible to the Jewish people, why did he wait? Why did the Creator wait 2,500 years to give it? Give it to Adam and let the system run.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he wait so long? And especially, why did he wait so long if it's possible to understand it without giving it? So then don't give it.
So that's why I look at it as this is the revelation itself is a very business-like transaction going on over here. As we said before...
The revelation with Moshe.
Yeah, specifically with Moshe. Because, as we said before, this is when Bnei Yisrael are transitioning from a family to a nation. And one of the things which helped them transition was the Torah. That they're actually, instead of practicing these things which their forefathers have passed down to them...
Which, by the way, full disclosure, didn't end very well.
What do you mean?
Like we've said earlier in the conversation, it wasn't that many generations between between Jacob, Yaakov Avinu, and people that left.
Right.
And we know from our own sources that we were stooped in disastrous.
There was a huge
physical
degradation of the Jewish people.
Right.
From the time that they came to Mitzrayim until they
morally, psychologically,
right.
emotionally.
The only thing they didn't lose is their identity. That's what Chazal tell us, right?
Exactly.
They had the same names, they dressed the same, they spoke the same language, they maintained a Jewish identity, and that was enough to maintain, to protect them from total assimilation, which is what ended up getting them out of Egypt.
Hence, nowadays, I'll throw this in there, the white and black. So, folks, if you're listening to this, don't make fun of the white and black so quickly. It may have its own quirks, and we can talk about that. But don't throw it out so quickly as to what that's about.
And we could put that for men and women. That's not
men and women, although women don't.
There's a Jewish but there's a Jewish uniform for women as well. It's not and not that the Jewish uniform for men has to be black and white, but there is there's an idea to it that we want to maintain an appearance that shows clearly that we are Jewish people.
Correct. Sorry to tangent you.
No, it's a very important point. But just getting back, so part of that transition was giving them the Torah. Was giving them the Torah. So the Torah is basically a contract. If you're giving someone a contract, you have to meet the person. You are making this deal with them for eternity. You can't rely on Moshe. You can't do that. It's not fair. At some point, you have to meet, the man behind the curtain. You have to pull it back, and you have to meet what's happening. And that is, Kriyas Yamsuf was very, very close to this, but still, Maimon Har Sinai remains the only time in the history of the world where the full display of the presence of God was on display in the physical realm. So that's the first thing about it. It has to be there's a deal closing here, and you have to make the person in charge of the deal. Another not smaller, but another aspect of that, like if that was this is next level in the outline, is that Moshe is going to be the leader, bringing this nation, teaching them the Torah, bringing them to Eretz Yisrael, establishing them as a real people before handing them off to future leaders. He's the leader of the prophets, right? For all time. Meaning, even though there was prophecy beforehand,
even future prophets,
right?
That's including me.
Exactly, and the tanks and everything.
And the isolation
and the isolation tanks. And those people we want to invite over to record with us.
Right, they be prophets.
All those people is from Moshe. Moshe is the source. It's not even just like the father. He's the source of prophecy. The only reason anyone after Moshe could get prophecy was because Moshe got. So,
which is a whole crazy trip in and of itself.
Yes, which we're definitely going to talk about at some point. But what's the difference? What's the difference between Moshe and everyone who came before? I don't think you see a prophecy before Moshe that dealt with a large amount of people. Meaning, any time God came to somebody and said, "I want you to do this," it was affecting that person.
Right.
You see God tell people about what's going to happen to large amounts of people. He tells Noah about the flood. He tells Avraham what's going to happen to his kids, etc., etc.
He doesn't directly tell them how to direct other people.
Exactly. This is the first time you see
a huge deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal.
So that's Moshe. Moshe is the first leader who's a prophet. He's the first prophet leader. You hadn't seen that throughout history. You'd seen people who were prophets that led, but their leading was not through their prophecy. Moshe's through prophecy. So God has to sort of say, he's patting Moshe on the shoulder. This is my guy. All you people down there, this is my guy. You have to follow him. So Moshe can't do that by himself. Moshe can't come down and say, "Oh, God said I'm the guy. He even gave me a pat on the back." It doesn't work like that. It's a very strictly business kind of relationship.
You're saying it's a lot more practical than anything else.
Yeah, and it needed to be done, and it could only be done with those people because you can't just it's not the Wizard of Oz. You can't just pull the curtain and the man's standing there. To experience God, you have to be on a certain level spiritually, and that's why this generation was the right one to do it.
Could we just tangent for a quick second on that?
Yeah, sure.
Because a lot of people, I don't think, myself included, obviously, is when you say you have to be on a certain spiritual level.
Yeah.
Right? to receive that or to for that to happen to you. Like, a lot of people have a hard time understanding that, because I think we're very far removed from what it means to be on a high spiritual level. So how would you say one might tangibly feel that for a second?
A high spiritual level, or the idea of having to advance a level to experience something?
Both.
So simply, the way you have to you have to crawl before you can walk. That's the first thing. To say that certain people are on certain spiritual levels and certain people are other ones. You see that there is a process in life with everything that you do, that you start off on level 0 and you work your way up to get to the highest level. And
that literally is in everything.
That's in everything.
If you're paying attention.
Now, it happens to be that there are certain things in life which you can skip levels, and the Rishonim tell us that you cannot skip a level when it comes to spirituality.
Were the Rishonim, just for people that...
If I have to remember correctly who it was.
No, not who they are, but when you say Rishonim.
Oh, the time period of the Rishonim is from, I think, like 800 CE
to like 14 something.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Something like that.
This is Common Era.
CE stands for Common Era, correct?
Yes.
So that's in terms. So we can understand physically how there are aspects in life which you advance, and if you're on a certain thing, you're not going to be able to. You can't learn algebra unless you've learned addition and subtraction. It just doesn't work.
Unless you go to Khan Academy. We are not sponsored yet by Khan Academy, but we might be. Now we might be.
Hey, I'm down. Like I said. In terms of spiritual aspects, so there's an idea of focusing yourself on God. This is again a huge topic, but very, very simply, every human being has a physical aspect and a spiritual aspect. And apart from every other flesh and blood creature on this world, humans have the ability to rise above their physicality and embrace spirituality.
According to
Jewish tradition.
Right. Because there are people who say not. I personally think that they're kind of...
Who says not?
Ignorant. Well, if you're a hardcore determinist...
Oh, you're saying outside of Judaism. You're saying. Oh, yeah. I mean, the basic way I would say spirituality, how there's an aspect of spirituality within yourself, is that you as a human get pleasure from non-physically pleasuring things.
That's a good point.
Meaning music,
art.
Nature, art. These are things which give the body absolutely zero pleasure. Just the feeling of, like, let's say there's a food you like, so there's an aspect of the taste that you enjoy the taste, and there's also an aspect of just that pleasure of seeing it in front of you.
Right.
Aesthetically pleasing. I don't think a cow cares what the grass looks like. So that's the basic thing of saying that there is spirituality within a person that they can. So again, we're keeping this like very basic. For
because that touches on something that I would definitely want to get more into, which is the idea of symmetry, and how, in a sense, symmetry equals beauty, beauty equals truth, and that sort of being a triangle.
All right, well, that's a topic.
Yeah, because mathematically speaking, I'm not a mathematician.
Mathematically speaking, you're not a mathematician?
Both.
Okay.
Like, if you were to create an equation, for me, it would come out syntax error, probably.
Okay, got it.
But, no, because when do you know that a mathematical equation is true?
Well, it's equal.
When it resolves.
Yeah.
Right? So essentially, the symmetry of this equation has proved that it's true.
Right.
Making it, according to a lot of people who deal in these things or in other things that require a large amount of symmetry, they refer to it as beauty. Oh, wow, this equation is beautiful. Oh, wow, this painting is beautiful.
Right.
Oh, wow, this piece of music is beautiful. These are all things that require symmetry for the brain to be like, oh, hey, that's beautiful.
Right.
Which is how I get to the triangle of symmetry equals beauty equals truth, and back again. Not to get too deep into it now, but basically, that's sort of a proof that some like atheists will use to say, if you ask an atheist, well, how do you get you ask an atheist, well, how do you get to truth in general? They'll say beauty. Some of them will say beauty. Beauty is truth, and then you say, well, if you really think about it, it's not such a bad claim as being evil, being.
But it's meaningless. Beauty is meaningless without something behind it. Because there's nothing physically there's nothing physically pleasurable about beauty. There are aspects of music and art which calm your brain. But that's different than beauty.
It's a calming effect.
That's different than beauty. Calming, there could be things which affect your brainwaves and stuff like that. But something which you appreciate intrinsically for its beauty is not a physical aspect at all.
Beauty is very tied to symmetry. They've
done
studies.
That aspect I wasn't arguing.
For instance, I remember reading a study once that they tried to figure out if physical human beauty is cross-cultural. Mm-hmm. And they found out basically that, for instance, in Asian cultures, they won't necessarily think that somebody who's Greek and beautiful is beautiful.
Right.
But within an Asian culture, within a Greek culture, within an American culture, within an African culture, they all agree on the most beautiful person in their culture has the most symmetrical face, mm-hmm. which is a big deal. It's like all humans seem to agree that symmetry equals that's attractive.
Yeah.
So, the reason I'm bringing that in is because if you have the time or the patience or the interest, and you really get into the details of Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? And Torah Shebiksav, you realize that the symmetry in the Torah is extraordinarily beautiful.
You have an example?
I mean, the entire Talmud. The entire Talmud from Bavel deals page to page of contradictions that resolve
in that aspect.
Right, and then even if you go a level deeper, and I'm not saying that I delve into Kabbalistic things at all, but I'm saying of course not. I may be a prophet, but I don't deal with that stuff. No, but if you delve even a level deeper, you start to see even more symmetry in why things happen and why things play out a certain way in the physical, why archetypes play out a certain way in the physical world.
Right, and that's why we say that the greatest pleasure a person has is when he has a contradiction resolved.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think there's scientific evidence to back that up.
Mm-hmm. Because it's just something's not fitting and all of a sudden it fits, it's just a huge release for your brain.
Yeah.
I hear. That's crazy.
Which is... I don't know why we got to there.
Well, we were talking... So getting back to what we were explaining...
But I think that's an
how a person advances... Yeah, for sure. So we were talking about how a person advances spiritually, and it's basically that because you have the ability to move beyond your physical body, you can move towards spiritual, you can envelop spirituality, and that is God. So that's what it... And God is spirituality. So that's what it means that this generation that was at Ma'amad Har Sinai, they were able to experience the revelation. But if you look at it, it's a very practical thing because God says in the Torah He's never going to do that again. Traditionally, we say that when Mashiach comes, that's when the full revelation of God is revealed. But it's like you said, it's the aspect of the symmetry. It's the fact that we will understand why everything in the world happens. That's the revelation of God in those days. And then there's more talk of a huge spiritual I don't want to say upheaval, but sort of the world sort of changes an entirely spiritual place, and that's when God can come out with all his spirituality. But the first full revelation of God is understanding why everything happened throughout history. So this revelation by Har Sinai, though, is a very practical one. It's a very special one because you're having an experience that no one ever had and no one will have ever again. So just because it's practical doesn't mean that it's not a tremendous thing which you should feel grateful for and everything like that. Yeah, but in terms of why it was done, especially then, that's I believe that's the reason why. It's about establishing a connection with somebody. that you're gonna have a career with now. You're
Right.
gonna have eternity with. They need to be able to meet you, and your representative Moshe, who's now going to be the representative for every single leader that comes after him. You need to have his back, and you need to show everybody that you have his back.
Where is God?
Wow. It depends if you follow Rabbi Eliyahu Kramer from Vilna, or if you follow Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. Where
You
you
can get into that argument later.
Oh, that's fun. That's going to be fun. We can talk about that. I mean, that's also a very interesting thing about Hasidus, is that people think that the big issue that everyone has with Hasidus is that either you're like happy clappy, right? Just too much simcha, not enough practical stuff. That there's not as much actual Torah learning involved in Hasidus as there is in non-Hasidus. But the original, argument about Hasidus had to do with God in this world and how much of a presence, how much spirituality can you attribute to physical objects?
I don't even think that it was that. I think they agreed on that. I think they disagreed on how much should I focus on that truth. I think the Harav Kramer.
Let's just go back to, I don't know why you started talking. It's the Vilna Gaon. That's Rabbi Eliyahu Kramer of Vilna.
But Kramer's theory is a real mathematical thing.
Yeah,
he came up with it. Yeah,
it was a book.
And not Kramer from, not to be confused.
Not the guy who lives around the corner from you. Not that Kramer. And not Kramer from Seinfeld.
Not Kramer from Seinfeld. There we go. No, but basically the Kramer, the Vilna Gaon agreed with the Balatanya of Shneur Zalman of Liadi. He agreed with him that he's here now.
Ooh, I don't think so.
I think he did. He just didn't agree with him that don't focus on that. That'll throw you way off. Focus on the Dalet Amos of Halacha, and you'll make it there.
I think you're incorrect. I think the Vilna Gaon is very strict about separating the physical from the spiritual. That the spiritual aspects of life are the actual spiritual objects of life. Aspects of life. It's not about meaning like, I mean, I don't even want to talk. Like, it's not getting out in the weeds. This is like stuff we do not want to talk about right now.
Talk about this right now.
But it's I mean, this is the Tzimtzum and all that stuff. Like, I'm not even going to explain what that is. I'm not even going to explain. That's like real Kabbalistic concepts, which of course we have no idea what those are, because we wouldn't discuss them.
I do personally, but I don't have the right to talk about it at this point.
Okay.
My wife's making faces at me because she knows that I'm super.
Shout out to Mrs. Rubin. Shout out.
Yeah. No, because what was the question?
Oh, so the question is where is God? So you're saying that because there was a revelation, what happened afterwards?
No, I'm asking you personally, where is God?
So,
because
I'm not a chassid.
To me, reaches back. Oh, okay, so you're not down to go there.
I'm not a chassid. So for me, I have to say that the only place you find God is by learning Torah and davening, praying. That's where God is.
You're saying he's not here right now?
I'm saying, look.
But you do. You have to say that because
the best way someone explained it to me?
What?
I think it was my Rebbe who explained it to me. He says, the song, Hashem is here, Hashem is there,
Yeah.
Hashem is true.
Yeah,
you know that song?
Yeah, of course.
He's like, do you believe that song? So I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Uncle Moshe sang it. It's God. He's like, yeah, that's because you grew up Hasidish. No, I didn't actually grow up Hasidish,
right,
but that's a Hasidish song. Like the aspect that Hashem can be found everywhere is a Hasidish concept.
I can prove to you easily that you agree that he's everywhere.
I'm sure that with my upbringing, if we got into a discussion, I might come to a thing.
I'm talking about
talking
from very mainstream Jewish sources.
Well, before we get into that,
prove to you that
what's the significance of your question in relation to the topic? Because I just want to make sure I understand.
The significance of the question in relation to the topic is how can a person begin to tangibly feel the fact that there are spiritual levels far beyond their daily experience. a normal person, when we're walking down the street, right? And let's say somebody's talking in my ear, right? I got my headphones in. Somebody's talking in my ear about the greatness of Moses, the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatness of Aaron, the greatness of Avram, right? It's very hard to relate when they say, "Oh, they're so spiritually great, you can't understand them."
Right.
Well, help me out a little bit, maybe.
Oh, okay, fine.
You know what I'm saying? So the point of the question is sort of like, how might we help a normal person in 2018 tangibly get a taste of the fact that there is so much more, so that we can appreciate the fact that, okay, well, what does it mean that they were great? You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. That's a good. Now I understand your question.
So that's why I asked the question. Well, where is God?
Right.
And how can I tangibly feel?
Okay, so I thought we were getting into a discussion of where the presence of God actually sits.
No,
which
is
the disagreement between the Gra and the Baal Tanya. That's the thing. But in terms of how we can
get into at a different time.
At a different time. But in terms of how you experience God nowadays. Oh boy, you're lucky your wife's here. All right, so how do we experience God nowadays? That's a great question. So, what would you say?
What would I say?
Yeah.
I would say to focus on the fact that you can't, when you really meditate on the fact that you can't see yourself. You can only hear yourself, and the fact that you're completely and totally alone in the world, you'll start to realize just how far you can go spiritually. When you start looking through your eyes and hearing your own voice and knowing that you are not what you're looking at, you are your voice. Where's your voice coming from? Okay, so maybe it's coming from thoughts that are rumbling around in your brain. Okay, so your brain is a very physical thing, but it also, everyone agrees your brain is not fully comprehensible. It reaches into levels that science can't yet quite figure out what in the world is going on in there, right? There are parts of it which science can tell you what's going on. There are many parts which science will say, we have no idea what's going on in there.
Right.
Right? So if a person can start to focus on the fact that, like, you are looking through your eyes and your voice is much more connected to who you are than what you see in the mirror when you're bugging about your pimple or whatever it is in the morning, right? Or if you're trying to get your hair just right so that no one cares and nobody looks at you. I'm talking to all those people out there who spend too much time in front of the mirror every morning. Just walk outside. No one cares what you look like. Feel what I'm saying?
Sure, I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm
offending that dude now who's like,
the prophet's not going to come visit us anymore. That's what the prophet does.
No, the prophet does not care about his hair. That's for darn
Actually,
sure.
you're right. He does not care about his hair.
I was going to say, if the prophet does come visit us, take a shower before you
please,
come.
do us a favor. I'm looking at the door now. Like I'm expecting him to walk in.
Take a shower before you come visit us. I'm not down to smell all that. No, but I think, so to get to the question, where is God? In order to be able to feel the fact that there is something, there are levels which we haven't experienced. There are levels with which you or I have not experienced yet, is to really meditate on the fact that, like, you are not your body. You don't see with your eyes, you see through your eyes. Right?
So you're attempting to realize that there's something beyond what you are here that's allowing you to develop all these things.
Right. When you start to really
emotions.
Focus on that, this gets back to the float tank.
Yeah, which I guess we're gonna have to leave in because it's a very interesting discussion. We were gonna cut it out, but we're gonna keep the floating tank thing. And
no, because it would help a normal person.
Yeah.
Get into that zone.
So here's the one thing I have of what you're saying.
Go too deep.
Basically, you're explaining a concept where you are bigger than yourself, but like you could be describing the Force from Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no.
In a lot of ways, I am.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that like
The Force from Star Wars is very good.
100% is a great mashal, except that
parable.
people actually use that as a religion. Like they didn't get to Judaism; they just stopped at the Force. You know, that's where they stopped.
I began at the Force and stopped shortly afterwards.
That's what I'm saying. No, so that's why I think it's so important to...
Sixth movie.
You need a...
Wait, hold on. Yeah, finish your thought, sorry.
You need a direction. You need a roadmap. You need to know how to find God. So we believe that God actually left us a message.
No, 100%, but we've already talked about the fact that you don't need to be... You don't need to have been left a message to find him and to find his will.
Yes, but the example that you're talking about is from Abraham, except that Abraham only got prophecy after he was already keeping the Torah.
Well, how did he understand?
No,
how did he get there?
So you're describing what you're describing now is this beyond physical feeling, right? But that doesn't necessarily lead you to God.
I think it leads you directly to the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm tiny.
Yeah, 100%.
There needs to be a God.
There. You don't need to finish there. I mean, you don't need to continue after that point. You could stop there. You have no idea. If you want to find God, meaning like space is huge.
Space is huge.
Space is huge. I'm tiny in space. I can wander around space for eternity and not find anything.
Well, you find a lot of gas and rocks.
I'm saying, but like, there's nothing of significance. Like, I could go around space for eternity and not find Earth. That's how vast the galaxy is. You know what I'm saying? Like, statistically, I'd eventually find Earth, but there's no guarantee. It's not like I'm in a box over here.
Right.
You know, like I'm in an endless thing over here.
Right. Statistically, if
I had eternity,
you would eventually
I would bump into Earth.
But then you'd be like, peace, I'm not dealing.
It might take 2 eternities. That's the problem. Right. What you need directions on how to find Earth. You know, so what Avram was able to do is that he probably stumbled around. I'm sure it wasn't an easy process. You know, he probably stumbled around on the path trying, you know, a bunch of different stuff. And then eventually, you could look at Yisro. Yisro tradition teaches us, Jethro, tradition teaches us that he tried every religion in the world.
Right.
And eventually settled in Judaism.
At that time, right.
Right. So he bumbled around for a little bit until he found something that made sense. You know, so yeah, you could work through things, but the easiest way to find God for us, because we're not in a situation of Abraham, we already have the message, right? So you pick up the message and start processing the message. You know, now there's a lot of different aspects.
When you say the message, you mean?
I mean the Torah.
Right.
And the Torah, when I say the Torah, that's huge, because you could talk about stuff like if this is what, you know, gets you going. Listen to us talk about for 2 hours.
Everything.
Exactly. So that's what I want to say. That you know, if it's the aspect of us talking for 2 hours about, you know, just philosophy, just trying to understand what happens at different points, right? Whether it's going to a 2-hour Gemara shir, going to a 2-hour halacha shir, right? Whether it's just learning Aleph Beis, and you know, the most direct thing, right, is just davening. Right? If you just start...
What is davening?
So we also nowadays we have a written message about prayer, about how the best manner of prayer, but essentially davening is just directing your thoughts towards God. Just
right, it didn't used to be so...
It didn't used to be confined. Or I should say set up. Right,
right. It used to be so established.
Right, exactly. It was very free-flowing. It was essentially a conversation between you and God.
Right.
And it got to a point...
Well, hey, now we're getting to see this show.
There we go. No, it was always like that. It's always like that. No one had a problem with that.
Okay.
Trust me, I can bring you plenty of literature sources for his votages. You know, it's not an issue.
All right.
But the idea was that at a certain point in history, you know, the rabbis felt that we were losing that power or that ability to just direct our thoughts in a clear way towards God. So they developed a system which they used with prophecy that is the best way in a coded system to connect with God. But that does not take away the power of just a heartfelt, you know, personal prayer. It never takes that away. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's 100%. A good point.
There is a manner which you have to pray. You can't just go rogue, right? But it does not take, just because we have a system of prayer, does not take away the power of your own personal
Speaking of Rogue One was a disaster.
I am not a Star Wars guy.
You're not?
I'm not a Star Wars guy.
So we're ending this podcast.
Seeing how we are now with the franchise, I'm actually pretty happy that I never got on the train. Because I don't even know what happened in the last movie, but apparently no one liked it.
Yeah, well, I had my problems with it as a Star Wars fan.
Well, maybe we should. That will be one of our Truth and Whiskey.
Truth and Whiskey things.
Truth and Whiskey
dealing with Star Wars.
Go on Star Wars and talk about all the
I can make mad amounts of parables out of Star Wars. Star Wars is very well,
I'm sure,
archetyped as like good, evil.
Yeah.
Balancing between the two, like grabbing what you can from every angle and morphing it into a good.
Right. Tshuva.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot there that we can talk about.
Yeah, that'll be a Truth and Whiskey, but with actual whiskey. I'm not letting you talk about Star Wars without whiskey in you. That's not going to happen.
I thought you were going to go into the fact that I've gone through 2 beers.
No. The beers are fine. Like saying no. Like if you're going to talk about Star Wars, you have to have more than 2 beers in you. It's not.
Right.
But yeah, so that aspect is still around, right? The aspect of prayer and that is the direction to God. But meaning that you need to start off with something. That's why we say like, if you want to pray, read Tehillim. Because even if you may not understand, there's something in Tehillim, there's something in the Psalms. You were about to say Psalms, I know you were. You were about to say there's something in
the silent P gets me again.
There's something in the Psalms which has a power to bring out that aspect, and it allows you to channel your energy through a specific thing. So that's why I understand what you're talking about.
In my opinion, only if you know what the words mean.
I disagree. I think that's the whole idea of set prayer. Is that it's the best is if you know what the words mean. That's what the halacha says.
I think you need to know what the words mean.
I think if you're,
I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't do it if you don't know what the words mean.
If you don't make an attempt,
if you want it to be meaningful,
yes,
like
100%.
Legitimately, if you want to trip out to it, know what the words mean.
If you don't attempt to find the meaning of the words, then you're not praying. Like at a certain point, you have to be a mature person.
No, you're basically just shaking around.
Take the next level.
You're shaking. You're doing the shake, the Jewish shake.
Right.
The Jewish shake we're doing the Jewish shake.
We're doing it now. We're like, one day we'll have video. We'll do the Jewish shake.
One day we'll have a video where we're doing the Jewish shake.
But yeah.
So this leads me into there is a medrash. There are sources that talk about the fact that at the end of times, there's going to come a generation which is going to need to basically be Avram Avinu. An entire generation that is going to essentially need to teach itself the proper path. Have you seen this before?
No, I mean, the most I've heard is that there's going to be tremendous temptations to leave the fold, and you're going to have to maintain the faith, but not that the faith will be forgotten.
Well, the faith can't be forgotten because it's written down, and there are bazillions of books that, in one way or another, touch on large key aspects of the faith and flush it out in many ways, right? I mean, whatever it is, there's lots of books in English nowadays that flush out those ideas as well. Probably in almost every language since Greek, they've probably flushed it out in different ways.
Yeah.
Right?
So what do you? So
my point is that being taking those sources at face value, where there's going to come a generation, which who knows, maybe to some extent we may be in that generation now.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to need to be more sensitivity than just knowing what the books are saying, to be able to connect what the books are saying to how I'm actually living my daily life in a meaningful way.
Well, the idea is that you should be able to
do you understand what I'm saying at all?
100%. And I think the idea
which is essentially what Avram Avinu did. He connected the world he was living in to the world that he came from, because every human is really two parts. Yeah. And he fused the two properly, which is essentially what the Torah is there to do. So the Bible is there to fuse both of you, who you are, properly, to fuse you comfortably and in a healthy manner, so that you're not bugging out. You're not like, oh, I feel so constricted, or I feel like I'm in some sort of a cult. No, the Torah is essentially there to make you feel so complete,
Right.
and in a flow state where you're functioning on a high level
Right.
of awareness, on a high level of compatibility with the world that you're surrounded by, that you can deal with any situation in the most moral fashion.
But
Right.
and part of that aspect is not just feeling a connection to God, it's also making your actions godly. And that's what Torah and halacha do.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But I'm saying that in a generation like that either will come, or even that that we may even be touching on the feet of that generation that's going to get there. Like, I feel like in a certain sense nowadays, we as Jews perhaps are losing at least some of us, or I can talk for myself, really losing the sensitivity of connecting myself to those actual laws in a meaningful way.
Right. It's becoming dry. And this happens throughout the generations. This isn't just now. I'm sure this happened at different points where it becomes you do things by rote. And when you have that at an individual level, it's something that can be fixed. When it happens on a community level,
that's a problem.
Then something needs to change.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to say. Well, where is God? Meaning, yes, he is in the Dalet Amos of halacha, or he is in the laws itself. That's 100% true. But I'm saying you have to connect to God, perhaps in certain generations, right? And we may be in that now, we may not, I don't know, on a generational level. But you have to connect to the reason why these things are important to begin with, why these things are more moral than what the West is telling us is moral or not moral.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Well, how do you connect to that? By asking yourself the question, well, where is God? He's right. That's what I'm saying. He's right here.
So that's why I like to say, keep going.
He's right here in the sense that he's literally in. I mean, how much space is between my face and your face right now? I don't know. Was it like 2 feet, a foot and a half?
Yeah.
Like, he's literally in between where these 2 feet, this foot and a half that's between me and you right now. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Meaning, like, there's absolute morality in between me and you right now existing.
If you've made him a part of your life,
exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. What I'm trying to say.
That's what I like to tell people, that the idea is to make what you're doing real. Because if you're just playing dress up, then there's nothing happening. But you have to make stuff real. It's like, hold on, like, I'm not, it's Matzah Shabbos right now. So, like, I'm not turning, 6 hours ago, Saturday night.
We're doing that. We're doing that all the way. We're going all the way with that.
So, like, 10 hours ago, if I say I'm not turning on the light, the question is now, why are you not turning on the light? So, at the simplest aspects, it's just, okay, it's Shabbos. But at a certain point in your development as a Jew and as a human being, it has to come to your mind that this is a commandment from God, which makes me closer to Him, and that comes through an understanding of the laws, it comes from an understanding of Shabbos, it comes from an understanding of God, and that's how, staying out of the Hasidish versus Misnagdish discussion over
Staying
there.
out of it for now.
Staying out of it for now, the idea is, that's a great idea, that, he's right here because we've made him a part of our lives, and we're functioning that way, so that sounds like a great place to stop.
That's a great place to stop for now.
For now. We got more coming. If you've listened to the end of this, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Have a beer. On us.
No,
if you're
not on us.
Not on us, because you're going to need more than 4 or 5. We're still getting an email address together, so in the meantime, email us aimemtorah@gmail.com. That's AIMEMTORAH@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, with questions or topics that you would like perhaps to be just fleshed out.
Any comments? Yeah, anything. If this was too confusing, just please let us know if there's something else we could sort of make more clear. And if you're a prophet, please get in touch with us.
Yeah,
too.
please.
We'd love
Come
to talk
through,
to you.
Grab a shower. Head to the nearest Jewish community center. Head to a JCC or LA Fitness. Grab a shower and head over.
Awesome. Have a good week. But,
Would you go to it? Would you do an isolation tank?
I've thought about it.
Would you do it? It's totally natural. There's no there's nothing
A
involved.
couple of years ago, I looked up because they had an article a couple of years ago how the Warriors were doing it.
Doing isolation
Golden
tanks.
State, yeah,
Really?
they called them flotation tanks.
Float
Right.
tanks.
So I was like, okay, this is something. I don't know, super whatever. It's something.
If OKC's, no, I'm saying if the Warriors are doing it.
No, I mean, because they're doing it because it's
strategy.
California, happy clappy, hippie flippy, and all that crunching and all this stuff. But so I googled, flotation centers in Maryland. Okay.
Were you in Maryland at the time?
No, I was here, but I was at that time I had.
There's one way downtown.
It's in the middle of East Baltimore.
Yeah, it's in the hood.
It's Bob's flotation. You have this guy Bob, he's got flowers on his pants. Okay. They show a picture of his tank. It looks like a metal coffin. No joke. The opening is like this big.
It's a square, right?
Okay. And I'm sitting there going like, you're gonna die in that house.
Not doing it.
This is the next horror film that's coming out.
Right, dying in
You're going to die in that house. And the funny thing is, it's right on the edge of the really preppy area of downtown. 3 blocks is like, Friends Middle School, like whatever, like the real preppy area of Maryland.
Like
he's right there. And it's a white guy. Like, I don't know what he's doing there.
They closed. I happen to know this because I tried to get my mom to go to the float tank, and this was the one that she was trying to go to. Because it's the closest one.
Oh, no. Tell her to go to New
No,
York.
she didn't go, but
oh my gosh.
they have other ones like further out, I think Timonium.
So they have it in Tel Aviv.
In Ramat Gan, they've one. I've been there before.
Oh, you do this?
Yeah, and I'm trying. I wanted to.
It's gonna stay on though.
I wanted to potentially was thinking about trying to open one here in Yerushalayim.
Do you have to have licensing and stuff?
I would assume that some sort of board of BS wants to make sure that I fill out enough paperwork to make sure that they're happy.
Not killing anybody
about their job. No, but. I guess some sort of health thing because the water. Most people would be sitting in the water.
Right. So it's about the health. About
there's
the water.
There's I've done the research. It's like there's basically there's a simple filtration system, and then a lot of people add another filtration system on top of that, with UV to kill.
That's
and then there's on top of that you can flood it with ozone.
Expensive here. Flood it with ozone. What does that do?
It makes it even cleaner, basically. So the water would be super clean. My idea, personally, also would be to pump in, and I've heard that that Joe Rogan does this with his personal tank, maybe, that you pump in 100% oxygen into the tank while the person's in there. So not only are you chilling, but you're
high.
Well, you're flooding your brain with awesome oxygen. Like you're at peak levels of your oxygen.
Dude,
in
100%
your brain.
oxygen is like,
it's dope.
That's really high, man.
Is that not scientific? Would you not want 100% oxygen?
No,
I feel like you would want 100%.
No, you don't want 100% oxygen.
Well, that's what they do in those tanks that Heinz Ward used to go into.
It's not
those hyperbaric chambers.
Yeah.
It's 100% oxygen.
Right, but you can't stand there that long.
Yeah, an hour.
I'm saying that's all you can do.
All right, we're only talking about an hour.
I'm saying
unless you don't want the 100% oxygen.
How many times have you done it?
I've done it 3 times.
And?
It's fantastic.
Yeah? Worth the money.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you go out?
Well, I quit smoking cigarettes the first time I came out of the tank. I was like, I'm done.
You don't want to ruin the feeling.
I made it to the bus stop with that one. No, but it was really good. The first time I ever floated, I had this. I did 30 minutes without any sort of that scientific alpha music or whatever it is. Puts your brain into alpha state or not alpha state. I don't know what I'm saying. Beta something.
Okay.
There's this music that they play for you. This trippy music.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do the music.
You'd do full silent.
Yeah.
That would be a trip.
Yeah. That's how you got to do it, man.
So I did half the first time, then I did full music, and then I did full silence.
And
I think I had the craziest time during half. But I had this trip where like I was like walking on this like glass road that was building itself as I was walking, but it wasn't only building itself outward; it was building itself down as well. I have no idea if my eyes were open or closed. You can't tell; it's pitch black. And like each brick in my mind, I like knew. You know some things in dreams.
Sure.
Like you just know that it's true. You don't know how it's true. It's just like it's part of the dream, and that's what it was. Mm-hmm. So I knew, for instance, that each brick was like failure. So like the road is built on failures. You keep walking on your failures, and you get to success. It's pretty deep.
Wow.
The point is, I think everyone should feel
Okay, fine. I'm like, wow, I don't know. I had nothing.
it was very visual.
I got nothing.
The second
over that.
time, though, when I did full music, I straight fell asleep. And when I woke up, I thought I was dead. Like, I really did. I saw this, like, glowing,
Oh, you probably freak out if you fall
triangle.
asleep in there.
like, this golden triangle glowing in front of my eyes when I woke up. And I was like, I didn't know where I was. Thought I was dead. And then I put my arms out, and I felt the tank. And I was like, oh, I'm good. And then the lights shut off in the room as I was showering, and I thought I went blind. I highly suggest that everyone do this. No, it's a worthwhile experience.
Oh, yeah. It's just not for the faint of heart, it sounds like. No,
it's
I would
good.
try it. I was
First of all,
really serious
physically,
about
you
trying
feel
it.
really good afterwards.
Well, that's what
Physically-
it's meant for, right? It's not supposed to be a mental thing. I mean, I'm sure it helps mentally, but it's made, like the Warriors do it for physical fitness,
Right,
not for
right, I'm
mental
sure.
calming. It's like the salts in the water and like just totally relaxing your body kind of thing.
Totally, yeah. I would like to see how large that tank is.
Oh my gosh.
7 footers getting into a tank.
It's got to be like an 8-9 foot tank, I guess.
Right, yeah.
And how deep it's got to be. I mean, they float on it, so
They
it doesn't
float
have to
on
be
it.
that deep.
It's
It looked like a big
little less
bathtub.
than
I mean, they
foot.
showed a video of them going in,
Really?
and then they put a video on their goggles. Like they wore goggles.
Right.
So they put a camera on their goggles with night vision. So like you just see like a very short clip of Steph Curry like closing it, and like you see a night vision thing, and
Does he basically fall asleep?
I mean they only showed a second of it,
Oh.
so like just enough for you to get the effect.
I think they made a horror movie about it in like the 80s. About an isolation tank.
Okay. I mean, I
Point
just
is,
saw that guy,
If
Bob.
I were to, how
and I
much
was
would
like,
you
"You're gonna
pay?
die."
How much would you pay to go for an hour?
Different prices, different places at different prices.
The one in Tel Aviv is super expensive. The one in Tel Aviv is like 300 shekel.
It's got to be because of the
plus.
water. It's got to be because of the water. No, that wasn't why.
I mean, they're the only one in. I think there might be one in Eilat, maybe. But essentially, they're the only one in Israel proper, so they can charge as much as they want. I think personally, you could probably do the same. You could probably get close to the same effect in a hammock. No, I'm serious. In one of those like really slinky material.
You say the weightlessness is the same?
Yeah, and then you sort of just dangle in midair. Let's say like a foot or two off the ground.
I was never
Pitch
comfortable
black.
in a hammock. Hammocks are really like...
Hammocks they're sketchy because you roll out.
I don't know if that's why I was uncomfortable. I don't think it's just a comfortable thing. They're always dirty also. No such thing as a clean hammock.
Yeah, there's always leaves on them that you gotta
And
push off.
some like brown something or other that's sunk into the canvas.
Right.
Or it's a rope hammock, and who wants to sit on a bed of ropes? It
No.
just doesn't
That's not
feel
comfortable.
good.